Hello and welcome to the Spotlight as we examine the police recruiting wars. I'm David Rose. Amid the calls to defund and reform the police, there's a battle going on between law enforcement agencies. They are competing to recruit and retain qualified officers, with some agencies offering perks like take-home cars, 4-day work weeks, and thousands of dollars in signing bonuses. But a notable agency is hemorrhaging talent, the Seattle Police Department, and things could be about to get significantly worse. The Spotlight's Matt Markovich digs into the numbers and discovers that the Emerald City is staring down the barrel of a full-blown public safety emergency.
The staffing crisis at Seattle Police is getting worse.
Number one, officers want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated. And they're also thinking about their own health and well-being.
Apparently, that's not happening. 43 have left this year, only 13 hired. SPD is now on track to lose far more officers than it's projected to hire. However, the president of the Police Officers Guild says the city's not revealing the true number, saying 59 have left.
I think some of this is political. That's why we try to circumvent the politics here and give the community accurate, non-political numbers so they really understand how serious this situation is.
I think all of us can agree that we do have a hiring crisis for the Seattle Police Department.
We are clearly dealing with a public safety emergency. We don't have enough officers on the street to deal with it.
Yet at a Seattle City Council committee meeting to discuss a hiring incentive resolution proposed by Councilmember Sarah Nelson, some appeared to be satisfied with the status quo, wanting alternative policing options.
The 2021 study found that 49% of all of our 911 call types, which constitute 80% of the call volume, could be responded to by an alternative responder, not a sworn officer.
The problem?
Do we have any of these alternative emergency responses ready to go today?
The answer to that is no.
Alternative policing may also be on the bargaining table right now, as the Police Officers Guild and the city are negotiating a new contract.
We are more than willing to sit down with the city and bargain what alternative forms of policing looks like when you compare it to the history, the work that's been done by police officers, by members of this union.
And the chief revealing in the meeting, the department has disbanded community police teams and precinct-based anti-crime teams. Bike and beat cops have gone from 55 to 4, reduced investigative and specialty units, all in an effort to put more officers into patrol cars and reduce 911 response times, and those times are still going up.
Our priority 1 call response time has gone up, as well as our priority 2 calls has actually exceeded over 30 minutes, and our priority 3 calls is almost over an hour. So even when people do need 911 services, we're not able to respond in an adequate amount of time.
By its own account, Seattle Police is on track to fall short of its hiring goal of 125 new officers this year. It just dropped that goal to 98. The officers' union president says it's more like 50.
Although they've lowered it, their expectations, they're still over-projecting the amount of hires.
The council is currently not funding any retention or hiring bonus to keep or recruit new officers.
Most, if not all, cities in our region do have this, and it's been said that we need to level the playing field for offering our officers this. Otherwise, we're going to lose them to other departments.
For example, the lateral hiring bonuses offered by nearby police agencies range from $15,000 to $30,000. At SPD, it's zero. A new mayor's report supports some council members' assumptions that incentives don't work.
It's not clear for SPD that the bonuses resulted in more people applying.
The council is now focusing on other city positions the mayor's office says could use hiring and retention incentives, like carpenters, HVAC technicians, plumbers, truck drivers, cashiers, inspectors, even a veterinarian.
Because it's not just retention strategies in one department, given that there's been a lot of a focus on that. It's retention and recruitment strategies in every single department.
So a good day for me is I was able to help.
Seattle Police has been on a promotional push to hire new officers for several years, producing several day-in-the-life profiles of officers in an effort to win over new recruits. The union chief says that's all well and good, but there's something simple that can be done to keep officers from fleeing the department.
We need a politician that publicly says police officers are valued in this city, and we welcome their service to this great community. That's literally as basic as I need to say it.
I want to talk about the funding in the Seattle City Council. What's happening with all the money right now that's not being used to pay for salaries? Are we basically defunding the police by just not paying salaries and hiring new officers?
It's kind of almost like default, because the Seattle City Council, which controls all the funds in the city of Seattle, including the SBD budget, they're basically talking about taking all the money from these officers who they won't be able to hire this year. And you just heard that SPOG is saying it may be 50, where they had budgeted for 125. So that's at least $4.5 million, maybe even more by the end of the year. Well, some members of the City Council are talking about putting that back into the general fund for other uses that aren't related to Seattle Police. If that happens, prevailing feeling is that money won't ever go back to the Seattle Police Department, because, as you know, there's been this 2-year adversarial relationship between the police department and the city council. The police department doesn't feel like they're supported by the city council, and the city council hasn't been funding SBD to the point that they want to.
Oh yeah, if that money goes back to the general fund, you can say goodbye to it forever. They will use it for other pet projects. Where does Mayor Harrell stand on all this?
The mayor has stood back and basically said, I'm going to wait and see. He's been asked direct questions, including me. Do you plan to have your own initiatives that would allow for recruiting bonuses or even a retention bonus? And he's basically said, I'll wait and see. So what he did is have his staff go into all the departments in Seattle to figure out, well, do we need incentive bonuses for other departments like animal control or city light, things like that. They came back and they found that other places need it. So now the council has ammunition in a way to move some of the funds that Harrell may have could use for just an incentive bonus for SBD. That money could go to all these other departments. So Mayor Harrell has not come out and said, I strongly support retention bonuses or incentive bonuses. I want to wait and see.
Matt Markovich, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Well, when it comes to hiring new officers, departments across our state are up against two main obstacles. Now, one is perception, that some vocal members of the public and politicians don't support the job that they're doing. Some potential recruits interested in the job could be concerned that they won't be appreciated, or they'll face even some public backlash. The other is the Criminal Justice Training Center, where all new hires must attend a 6-month training class. Other states don't have that. For example, when New York or Los Angeles police departments need to hire new officers, they find candidates, make offers, and then send cadets to their own training academies. But for law enforcement agencies based in Washington state, they hit a bottleneck that incentivizes agencies to compete for lateral hires, officers and deputies who have already graduated from the Criminal Justice Training Center and are on the job with other departments. That's leading to an arms race to see who can dole out the most cash for signing bonuses and perks. For example, Tacoma is looking to fill about 50 positions. The city's offering $25,000 to entice officers to transfer from other agencies, and they'll let them take home a car, so they don't rack up miles or burn their own gas commuting. Tacoma's new police chief, Avery Moore, telling the Spotlight his department is in the Goldilocks zone.
You have the opportunity to have a career within the career, because we're not a small department, we're not large, we're right in that mid-level. So you can be a detective here, homicide, sexual assault, you can work in K-9, you can work in the traffic division, you can work in the new coming gang unit, narcotics, so it's just a wide range of opportunity here that you may not have at a smaller agency.
He took over the job in January and is taking an analytics-based approach to assess crime and allocate resources.
So my mantra to my people are, we're going to focus solely on what we can do. We know the parameters already. So we're going to focus on what we can do, and we're going to deliver what the community and what we want. We want to make it safe because we live in Tacoma as well.
His strategic plan includes using criminologists from Texas to research where violent crimes are occurring in Tacoma and mixing that data-driven approach with a heartfelt new agey message.
At the root of all policing is love. And I believe you have to tell your officers you love them. You have to show them that you love them, because everybody needs love. So that's my motto. love.
The Pierce County Sheriff's Department also has about 50 positions open for deputies. They've hired several former Seattle police officers who made the switch. Deputies patrol from Mount Rainier to the Sound. They also take home a patrol vehicle. The county's offering a $15,000 signing bonus. For some considering a career in law enforcement, it matters who the top cop is. King County has a new sheriff. Patty Coltendall was appointed to the permanent position this week after serving as interim sheriff since last year. Her department is searching far and wide for new deputies. We spoke with the new boss as deputies took off for a literal recruiting drive.
Law enforcement is a noble career. It is a way to serve and give back to the community. We train our deputies well. We train them to keep themselves safe, to keep the community safe.
They headed out for Reno in this SUV that serves as a rolling billboard, looking to hit the jackpot with job seekers.
We have a very competitive salary package, including take-home vehicle. We have 410 schedules and a variety of other specialty assignments.
Her department is offering out-of-state hires $5,000 in moving expenses and up to $15,000 in signing bonuses. Almost every law enforcement agency is scrambling to fill positions.
So we're trying to think outside the box within the parameters and the guidelines that we really still need to be safe.
The jobs in law enforcement are numerous and varied. The Washington State Patrol is looking to hire 911 dispatchers and troopers, showcasing the different types of career paths they have.
We have other jobs besides wearing this and going out and patrolling traffic. I mean, we have detectives that do collision investigations when there's vehicular assaults, vehicular fatalities. We have auto theft detectives, we have narcotics detectives, and we have a lot of other different specialties.
It's rare, but some departments like Bellevue aren't struggling to hire. They were the first in the state to offer a signing bonus back in 2018. They only have one position open right now and are still offering a $16,000 signing bonus. The city of Everett is aggressive and forward-thinking about hiring for its police department. They dedicated 2 detectives to processing background applications. It shaved off weeks from the process, allowing them to make offers to candidates more quickly. And since candidates often apply to multiple agencies at the same time, getting an offer out first helps. The city also hired a production company to create a video touting the benefits of living in Snohomish County and how much the city supports its officers and its department. The Spotlight's cameras were on set for the shoot. We met the juggernaut behind the campaign, Detective Danny Rebellos, who has a quick smile, an infectious laugh, and the ability to talk to anyone openly and honestly.
We're going to turn here and march
we're
down
looking
there.
for more women in law enforcement. We're looking for more people from diverse groups.
The crowd's kind of serious, I told them, and then we're kind of walking.
I became a police officer because I didn't necessarily like the way police interacted with citizens. So I've spent a career changing and bringing trust to the community.
We are working really hard to recruit new officers. It's been really hard in the environment the last couple of years to recruit officers, and to see this showing of community support and love that the city has for our Everett Police Department is just heartwarming.
You do deal with a lot of trauma as a police officer because you respond to people on their worst day.
This has been a hard year for Everett. We lost Officer Rocha in the line of duty, and I think the community is really what's been helping us get through this really difficult time.
For me, not only in policing, but just in society, we got to have everybody just come together. There's too much of people not coming together.
It is absolutely important that our department reflects the community we serve, right? And so we want women in our police department. We want young people in our police department. We want people of all races and ethnicities in our police department, sexual orientation. This is a police department that really wants the community to see themselves in our police.
I'm heavily tattooed, and you would be amazed at how many people just come talk to me because they feel comfortable because I'm tattooed. I came from an abusive family and I grew up very poor, and so superheroes were kind of my escape. We always wanted some superhero to come save us. My favorite is actually Green Lantern. With willpower, you can do anything. On one sleeve, I have all the heroes. On the other sleeve, I have all villains. And I could have been on either arm, and I'm no better than anybody else, and I'll never treat anybody like that.
He was the one that sent me to prison the first time, and he knows me very well, so he invited me, which was cool. He actually helped me out a lot. He's always there to talk to. He's respectful. If you need anything, he's the first one that would answer the phone if you called him.
I love talking to people, so it doesn't matter who you are. I'll talk to you. I've recruited people in just a mall line. To me, I don't know if it's necessarily challenging or more of an excitement to expose stuff to new people and bring the opportunity for them that they may not have understand, oh, I can apply and be a police officer. We're 20 positions down. I would love to get us fully staffed, especially before I leave policing. Seeing people succeed from, I used to arrest them, and they went to prison, they're off of drugs, to people that have been successful in this community. Those are the stories that are important. And Everett PD, we don't work for the city itself, we work for the people of the city.
It's very humbling and very emotional to have this many people here. So.
Detective Rebellos tells us he expects the video to debut in June. Not all careers in law enforcement require a badge and a gun. Take the scientists at the Bellevue Police Crime Lab. They are using state-of-the-art gear to solve crimes across the Pacific Northwest.
It's not as glamorous as maybe people on the TV show. When people ask me what we actually do for a living, we dig through garbage all day. The evidence that comes in is literally garbage. It's stuff, beer cans, cigarette butts, paper, wadded up paper, bloody shirts, bloody towels, things like that. And we dig through all that stuff just looking for any evidence that may help the investigator in their investigation. This is a high vacuum chamber. This chamber up here is 1-inch thick stainless steel. There's a series of pumps down here that can evacuate the air, all the molecules out of this chamber to equivalent of 1/1,000,000th of an atmosphere. So what we do then is we hang our exhibits up here, anything evidence that we're going to process, and then these are thermal evaporation units. And what we do is we use different metals. We use gold, silver, zinc, copper, tin, aluminum. We can heat those metals up, past their boiling point. They go from a solid to a gas. When they hit the evidence, they turn back into a solid. So what happens if there's any evidence on there, like fingerprints or trace evidence, that acts as like a barrier preventing the metals from adhering, and then we get the fingerprint image. So then what we would do is we could photograph these images. They're actually reverse images. So then we use software, we can use Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Lightroom, then we can process these images, so then we can get them ready to search into an automated fingerprint identification system. We can put all types of materials in here, but specifically the most we use this for is things that fall between the porous and non-porous. So they can be either one. We can actually do fabrics in here. If the weave of the fabric is tight enough, we can get identifiable fingerprints. But a lot of times what we do is we look for grab marks, and then we get those grab marks, and then we can target those areas for DNA collection. The other thing too is putting shell casings from firearms and so forth in there, and the same thing if we don't get a fingerprint image that's good enough to identify, but then we can target that area for DNA collection. We use this in our normal coursework from motor vehicle, prowl, all the way up to homicide.
The goal for many people who join law enforcement is to become a detective. And the very best investigators use all of the tools they have, including turning to shows like The Spotlight and our viewers like you to solve crimes. And tonight, the detectives at the Washington State Patrol need your help. This is 36-year-old Timothy Robinette, who was murdered in Auburn. Our crew was there early in the morning of October 6th, 2020, as troopers shut down both directions of Highway 18 to investigate the homicide. It all started minutes earlier in this parking lot. A white Durango pulls into a parking spot in a strip mall. A dark-colored 2018 to 2020 Hyundai Kona backs in toward the Ring camera, then pulls up next to the Durango. The driver of the Durango got out and got into the Kona that had at least 2 people in it. This is where the case takes a really strange turn. Troopers say Robinette left his own car that was parked at the gas station and went over and got into the Durango and drove off. The people in the Kona took off after him. This video shows them chasing the Durango through Auburn. One of the men inside was firing his gun at the stolen Durango. Timothy hit a barrier and crashed. He got out of the Durango, and that's when troopers say one of the men in the Kona shot him in the head from across the road. Detectives and a canine searched for hours for evidence. Troopers say there's no connection between Timothy and the suspects, and they had no interaction in the parking lot. This was a murder. And here's why you should help troopers solve it. Timothy's 12-year-old son, Evan, asked me to share this statement with you, saying, "It broke my heart when my mom said my dad was taken away from me. My dad tried his best to be there for me, and I miss him every day. It's not fair that he doesn't get to see me grow up. I hope that whoever killed my dad will get caught so other kids don't have to feel what I feel. So take another look at that dark-colored Hyundai Kona. Detectives are still trying to find it. Timothy's father has added $1,000 to the Crime Stoppers reward, so if you can tell troopers who was in that Kona or identify the killer, anything to solve this case, you will be paid $2,000. You never have to give your name. You can submit tips through the P3 Tips app or call 1-800-222-TIPS. After doing some research on the background of the individual who is the person of interest, I can tell you that that person has multiple girlfriends, multiple women that he's seeing, who have no idea that there are other women in his life. In fact, he calls all of them babe or baby in the text he sends just so he doesn't get them confused. The hope is that allegiances have changed, and one of them might come forward and provide the tip needed to hold this killer accountable. That's all the time we have on the Spotlight. I'll see you next week. Until then, be smart and stay safe.